We haven't really stayed at a lot of RV parks just because
Yeah.
we don't do that very much.
We have not grown up with RVs, neither of us. And when our friends came, they were like, oh, this is pretty decent, for RV parks. And now that I've stayed in a few, I have perspective on it. I don't know. I don't particularly like RV parks. I feel very vulnerable in them. The one in Thermopolis, because it has like this weird family feel. Like, I don't know.
It was interesting because when we first got there, the first couple nights, it was pretty quiet, right? I mean, there was a few people, and it was during the week, and it was pretty early in the season. And then as we got to Friday, that's when this group converged, and it got pretty busy.
But I never felt particularly vulnerable there. There was a sense of like people didn't really care.
Yeah.
But then there were some RV parks that I really felt weird about.
Right.
And I did not feel comfortable at, and I would not stay there again.
Right. So the thing about it is that you never know, right? I mean, like, we're two women traveling around, plus we're gay, and it's the West. And, like, I know the West is kind of like live and let live. I mean, we were just aware.
We were very hyper aware. And I think the problem is that you also, when we started heading west, we saw very few people of color. That was just like the first layer of many layers that we had to think about when we were traveling.
Right.
And we didn't run into any problems.
No problems.
But my own feelings about it were really hesitant at RV parks. And I think I would actually feel a lot better camping than I would in RV parks in some states and circumstances.
You just never know when people come up and, like, because people are friendly in RV parks or, campgrounds. And so you just never know, though, right? So Marissa introduced me as her friend a lot, which is fine. Like, it's not anything, whatever. But then, like, I would catch myself calling her honey or whatever. And
the problem is that we're too ingrained in our relationship.
Right.
And this is true. I mean, you could ask a heterosexual couple to do this, too, and it would be hard. We just give off a vibe of... a couple. A lot of the people we met, oddly, in the RV parks were not from that area, right? So they were from East Coast or West Coast or Canada, or... they were traveling the West, and so a lot of them didn't care. They were totally fine. But it's the residents, semi-permanent residents, that you just don't know. But there are certain areas, like if I introduce myself and I say I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota is known as a liberal state. So they're just going to know that about me. If I met someone from Wyoming, I would be like... right, they're probably conservative until I learn otherwise.
Right.
And that's just a basic...
it's a preconceived notion of...
right. But it's also a survival skill. Like, you learn a lot from where people live.
It's true.
Like, when we met Canadians in South Dakota, like, I didn't have any issue talking about anything because I was like, you're Canadian. Right.
And we know that there's people who are conservative Canadians. We know conservative Minnesotans, like liberal Montana-ins... whatever. But it was an interesting walk.
But you learn, like, your initial reaction to people, you have to take what you know from them.
Right.
And oftentimes you know where they're from first.
Right.
And so as a gay couple, you have to gauge, you could be from Sheridan, Wyoming, which is a really little blue dot in the midst of red Wyoming, but I don't know that unless you tell that to me. And so...